Rabbi Sai Azoi. Someone's wronged you, or you see someone who's doing something wrong, al pi Torah. How are you supposed to respond? There's a mitzvah in this week's Parsha, hocheach tochiach, to rebuke them. But this mitzvah looks like a very difficult mitzvah to fulfill. Even back in the glory days of the holy Tanaim, the great Rabbi Taruf and the Rabbi Akiva, reports the Medrash, doubted if there was anyone in their generation who could rebuke properly. And Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah adds that he was not sure there was anyone around then who knew how to receive the rebuke appropriately. And that was in their generation. And then the Torah states an extra ambiguous clause, lo tisa alav chet. What does that mean? So the Medrash explains that means that in the course of rebuking someone, you have to make really sure not to embarrass them at all. You can't sin for the sake of fulfilling the mitzvah of rebuke. Wow, this mitzvah sounds so challenging to do effectively. My hi. Rav Moshe Feinstein was born in the village of Uzda, Belarus in 1895. He was named Moshe after Moshe Rabbeinu because he too was born on Zayin Hador. And like his great namesake, he went on to become the proficient Hador, the Gadol Hador, and was known for his outstanding Torah knowledge and incredible humility. As a brilliant teenager, his fame had already spread around Europe. But as World War I broke out, he was in danger of being conscripted into the Russian army. So he traveled for miles and miles to try to find a lawyer to help him, but to no avail. And going into the Russian army meant terrible spiritual and physical danger. On his journey back, he stopped off in the town of Smilovitz, where the Chofetz Chaim's yeshiva had taken refuge. When young Rabbi Moshe entered the Beis Medrash, he saw the Chofetz Chaim and Rabbi Chanan Wasserman learning together. He went over to speak to them, and it was clear that they were already aware of the reputation of this young Ilui, which was only corroborated when they spoke with him in learning. And the Chofetz Chaim gave Rabbi Moshe a bracha that the government's decree of conscription would soon be nullified. And only a week or two later, the Russian government made a decision that Rabbanim were no longer required to be conscripted. In 1936, having led his community in Luban and survived the oppression from the Russian communists, who actually treated him with unusual respect, he made his way to America. By that stage, his tshuva was already very well known to leading Gadol Hador, such as Rav Chaim Oizer, Rav Yecheskel Abramsky, and his friend from his youth, Rav Shach. When he arrived at New York Harbor, he was greeted by some of America's most prominent Rabbanim. Shortly after his arrival, the Torah periodical Parshas welcomed this great Gaon, renowned in Europe. It's hoped that he will find a rabbinic position in this country through which the glory of his Torah will be heard. That position ended up being the Rosh Yeshiva of Tiferes Yerushalayim, and how that glory shone. Almost 50 years of shiurim, advice, love, patience, leadership. His psakim was so great that Rav Elyashiv and Rishon Zalman Auerbach, the leading poskim of Eretz Yisrael, would turn to Rav Moshe when they felt they were presented with a shaila which was beyond their ability to paskin. His hasmada was also epic. Incredibly, he did chazara on all 4 halakim of Shulchan Aruch with its commentaries every month, and did chazara on all of Shas Mishnayos every week. He went to sleep at 11 o'clock every night and woke up at 4 o'clock so as to learn for 3 hours before Shacharis, which was his most precious learning time. One evening, a group of friends in New York decided to make a series of prank calls to rabbis. And about 11:30 that night, it was the turn of one of the boys, Tzvi, to make his prank call to no less than Rav Moshe Feinstein. Tzvi made the call, and the Rebbitzin picked up the phone. He asked to speak to Rav Moshe. Is it urgent, she asked, and Tzvi replied, yes. So she went to wake up Rav Moshe, and he came to the phone. He soon realized it was a prank call, but he decided nevertheless to prolong the conversation. He asked the boy his name and way of his learning, and Tzvi was understandably very reluctant to reveal the details, but Rav Moshe reassured him that he wouldn't get in trouble. Then Rav Moshe asked young Tzvi which sugi he was learning. Now Tzvi was not the most motivated student, and he was struggling to remember exactly where they were holding in class, but with the help of Rav Moshe he managed to figure it out. And then for the next hour, Rav Moshe patiently went over and over the Shakavitaria until Tzvi understood the Gemara for the first time in his life. Then Rav Moshe told Tzvi a kasha that Rav Moshe had on the Tosfos. Tzvi also understood that. Rav Moshe told him, tomorrow when you go to class, put up your hand and ask the Rebbe this kasha on the Tosfos. The next day when Tzvi put up his hand in class, the Rebbe allowed him to ask his question only very reluctantly, but he asked it. And the Rebbe, taken aback, said, who did he hear that kasha from? To which Tzvi responded, Manu Chavrusa, Rav Moshe Feinstein. For the next 3 days, the class were busy trying to work out an answer to this question. At the end of the week, Tzvi broke down in tears to his parents. And he said, Rav Moshe believed in me. That was a real turning point in his life. And today, he is now a successful Maggid Shir in a yeshiva in the tri-state area. A phenomenal Maisa. Now back to the mitzvah of Tochacha. As Rav Moshe himself stresses in one of his tshuvas, there's no point in rebuking someone in a way that will not be heard. And of course, the point of the Tochacha is to help them to straighten their ways. And, the Medrash added, you're not allowed to embarrass someone in the course of rebuking them. So when confronted with a rather rude prank call, instead of just telling the boy off and potentially embarrassing him, Rav Moshe, with his brilliance, love and sterling midas, found a way to correct young Tzvi's behavior in a way that could not only be heard, but could straighten, change, and shape his life forever. How those great Tanaim one imagines would have been so impressed by Rav Moshe Feinstein and his ability to fill what seems like such a challenging mitzvah. Good Shabbos.